Hi, today we are here with Zlata, all the way from Sarajevo. She is going to tell us what it's like to live in the war.
Hi.
So, Zlata, tell us what it's like to live in
It
war.
was terrible. We suffered every day and cried most of the time. Physically, it was very hard because there was no light or gas or water.
What is like to hear the shells and having no food?
At first, it was shocking. I cried, and my family and I were very nervous. As the days passed by, we become used to it, but it was still nerve-wracking. We lived in a constant reminder of fear and of war. We didn't know if the next day, week, or hour we were gonna survive. We were very nervous.
How was the food problem like?
Well, we have a few amount of food. When we went down to the cellar, we would starve to hunger, and my stomach will grow like a lion. It was very hard, and we couldn't go back to eat until it was safe to go upstairs to our apartment.
How did this war affect you in the long run?
It hit me in many ways. First, my childhood was destroyed. After the war ended, it felt as if I have not grown, as if the war stopped my life in its tracks for 2 years. Academically, it also affected me. I could never complete a finished grade, and emotionally, I was very affected because I was sad, depressed, and bored most of the time. During the war, I saw many friends and family die. It was very depressing.
Which death caused you the most shock?
To be sincere, all of that death has shocked me. But the most that affected me was one of my friends at school that was shot dead at the park. Many, I was not the only one to suffer, but many people of Sarajevo were very sad and depressed, just like me and my family.
When there was no shelling, what would you do?
When there was no shooting, I went to a kind of summer school. When I was not in summer school, I wrote or played the piano. And most of the Mondays, if there was no shooting, my best friend will come to my house.
Where were you and your family injured?
Me and my family were never injured, but my uncle was shot in the leg but was able to recover. One of the most shocking days was when my mother had to cross the river to go visit my grandparents. Crossing the river was very delicate because there was shooting all the time. I got very nervous because after some hours my mom didn't return, so we started calling some hospitals. But after some minutes that I became worried, I saw my mother running over the bridge.
What were some of the things that made you happy even as the war was going on?
Many things made me happy, such as food, gas, electricity, birthday gifts, and things like that. Even though they were small, I was really happy and excited to receive them.
Where did you leave to?
After the war, I left to Paris, where there was electricity, water, and gas. There was life, there was light, traffic, and people. The most important thing, there was food. I had never been so happy since the war started. It was incredible.
What is your main flashback of the war?
My main flashbacks from the war was when we went down to the cellar and starved to death. And my another flashback was the time where my mother crossed the bridge. It was the most awful day of the war. I felt horrible that day. I felt sick to my stomach.
After the war, were you left with any trauma?
Trauma? No, I didn't have trauma. But many things reminded me to the war, such as loud sounds. When I am hungry, I remembered when I went to the cellar. And some clothes that I used to wear in the war just reminding me of some days that were just terrible.
Well, I could not even imagine what you went through. I admire you and your family because it must have been very hard to live through that. And in such a young age, it was really great to meet you and have some sense with what the war was like in those times.